Hey, buddy.
It's a slow build.
You're a slow build.
I'm a big build.
Yes, sir.
I'm a big... Hey, the quote I was trying to pull was when Mickey says, "Hey, kids, how big is he?" And the kids go, "He's a big man, that's for sure."
What is that from?
Snatch.
Ryan, do you know what percentile of a height you are for American males?
He's a big fucker, ain't you? I don't actually. It's got to be up there though.
99.5.
Am I really?
Yeah, you're a big fucker.
Wow. That's NBA caliber.
No, it's not.
Put me in, coach.
I mean, I guess it is if you play like two guard or something.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Can
That's
you shoot? Can you dribble? Can you run? You're set. You know what percentile I am?
Wait, let me guess. You are, what are you, 5'11"?
10.
5'10"? I'm going to say, man, I feel like 5'10" is like 50th percentile.
Very close.
Okay.
59.
Okay.
I'm above average,
So you're still above average.
motherfucker.
Okay.
5'9.3 is average, apparently.
5'9'3". All right.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds, I agree.
Oh,
Not
gotta turn the sound back on.
Uh-oh.
Technical difficulties. Oh, there's still music playing. Oh, fuck.
Is this your engineer impersonation voice? This is like
it's always old men.
the
There's just always old white men with like too much mouth. That's the only people who ever engineer anymore.
Is that what you're going to become one day? You're just
old,
getting your impression.
I mean, 2/3 of that are like for sure, unless I guess I could die before I get old. I've got 1/3 down.
Until then, you got to work your impression out to make sure.
So far, so good on the getting old part.
That you know how to speak with too much mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like, come on.
I'm sure
that's probably really unpleasant to listen to.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure that as soon as you EQ that sound, it's gonna sound like death slugs dying in our listeners' ears.
Death slugs.
Yes,
dying
in our listeners' ears.
You want to talk about some big fuckers?
He's a big fucker, ain't you? I'd love to.
Okay,
but before we get into big fuckers, we have a couple announcements.
Yeah.
If
that was my cue, I don't know what they are.
No,
okay, great.
I was just waiting for affirmation that we had them, and you looked at me like you had shut off for a second.
I can't affirm it, but I can say yes.
Okay.
Because I don't really know what you're about to say.
Got it. So the first announcement that we have is on the Patreon this past week, we were talking about the concept of shout outs on the show.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, what if, if we made a form for y'all to do it, would y'all buy shout outs for your friends or your small business or whatever?
And exactly one of you said yes, so fuck it, we're doing it.
Wait, no, way more people than one said it. So we're going to do it. If you go to whatifpodcast.com/shout-out, all
clever.
one word.
Clever.
Whatifpodcast.com/shout-out, you can toss us $50 and we'll say, I don't think anything is the right word. We'll say close to anything on the show.
Nothing like hateful or
yeah, if you try to get us to say fucked up stuff, we'll just send you your money back and be like,
nah, I'll keep your money.
just not
edit your content.
Yeah, there we go. We'll just do it. We'll do a hard edit on it. But no, we'll if you want to shout out a friend or write a buddy a letter and say congratulations on graduating, or you want to say, hey, I make t-shirts and they're dope.
Check out my Etsy.
Check out my Etsy shop. Yeah, we've
come to my concert.
Yeah, there you go.
Watch me do stand up.
There it is. I feel
buy a hot dog from me on the corner of 3rd and Marquette.
Yeah, sick.
Mm-hmm.
I would eat a hot dog right now.
See?
It's working already. Yeah, we've got a cool creative community of people, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of you who listen to the show every week.
Any message that you want to get to like 10,000 people for $50, that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. So if that sounds fun to you, just go to whatifpodcast.com/shout-out And it'll just take you right to a little shop we've got. That's also where our robot grandma swag and all that stuff is. You'll be able to basically all you got to do is throw it in your cart and write your note in the special instructions and check out. And we'll space them out on the show. We'll read a few every week. And hopefully it'll be fun.
Is there a limit on those?
I mean, I think we'll put a limit on it.
But I mean, like, is there actually in the store right now?
No, there's not.
Okay. We should maybe do that.
You're right. Maybe we should have some inventory.
Let's say like 5.
We'll start with 10, and we'll space them out over the course of...
that's a lot.
Well, over the course of a month.
Son.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only, we'll do a couple every week, and we'll see how it goes.
Fair enough.
So yeah, hopefully that's fun for you guys. It'll be fun for us, and obviously we love interacting with y'all since we read your emails and play your voicemails.
But now you got to pay for it.
Well, no, this is just more like there's a benefit to it instead of us just bullshitting.
If you want to, like, over weeks at a time, play a very elaborate prank on someone and have us facilitate that.
That's true.
And you have a budget.
That's true.
For your prank.
That's true.
If you got a solid prank budget. We're here to help.
We just read fake news stories, and then you can play them for your friends and be like, isn't this crazy? This asteroid's coming.
Let's not do that. That sounds sort of reckless.
You're a mean friend for even considering what I said for a single second. How dare you? How dare you do that?
Was there a second announcement?
Just that we're well on our way to 400 reviews, and every time we get 100 reviews, we do live shows, and they're really fun. And the last one was like the most fun one we've ever done. So if you go to iTunes and you leave us a review, we would really love it and appreciate it. And it helps friends and like-minded community members like y'all find the show, and it lets us get to do another live episode and hang out with you guys live on Facebook.
Nobody cares.
So come through.
Last thing, if you're interested in like a more formal advertising thing than just paying us $50 to read whatever the fuck you write in that little text box,
You're
hi@whatifpodcast.com, and we'd be happy to discuss that with you.
Yeah, that's another thing that came up on the last show, and people were like, why didn't you guys say something before? So we're saying it now.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
we can talk about big fuckers.
Giants. Okay.
So go ahead.
I feel like before we get into this, it would help me a lot to define how big qualifies as giant.
Well, if I'm 6'5" and I'm in the 99.5th percentile,
Yes.
does that make me a giant because I'm bigger than 995 out of 1,000 people?
No. I would not describe you as a giant.
I wouldn't either, but I guess I'm trying to get to the core of the question, right? Like, at what point is someone giant? What makes someone a giant?
So I guess what I'm getting at is like, I was thinking about this in the mythical sense, right? Of like, maybe there was a different type of human being or like a different species entirely in the past, or maybe currently, or, all the myths and lore around all the giants from mythology. There are many, but like the Jack and the Beanstalks and the David and Goliaths and all those things.
And the Paul Bunyans.
Yeah.
Minnesota, what up?
How big are we talking? Because like normal humans have gotten pretty fucking big at times.
You mean normal humans have gotten big in like the forms of gigantism? Or
like there's a really wide range of height for human beings.
Yes.
If we go to both extremes.
Yes.
Like there was a dude that was 8'11".
Yeah, he's the tallest person ever documented, right?
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Robert Wadlow.
That's the one. 8'11". So he was almost 9 feet tall, plus wingspan on top of it. He's got to be 12. He could reach up to like 12 feet high.
Damn, that boy big.
We are going to absolutely beat that sounder to death
Because
today
it really,
and far beyond.
Yeah, I guess, it will most directly apply today, but I'm sure we can find applications for it going forward.
Every time Bigfoot comes up in the future, we are definitely hollering, damn, that boy big.
Damn, that boy big.
Yep, 100%.
I can already tell that that's going to just work its way into my regular vocabulary.
Damn, that boy big.
Yeah, with that inflection.
Yeah. Especially when you're surprised too, right? Like you're going to come around a corner and see somebody tall and just be like, damn. that boy big. And that guy's going to look at you and be like, fucking wow, dude. Never had that reaction to me as a person before.
About the 7'3", Jesus-loving, Trump-loving big fucker that plays in our rec basketball league?
I hate all of it. This got so bad so quickly.
Shit went bad real quick. Okay, so whatever, that story's not worth talking about.
Gigantism, I feel like, as from what I could read up, gigantism as a I feel like disease is a disrespectful word to use. I don't mean it like that. As a abnormality, anomaly,
sure,
a biological anomaly. I've seen between like 7 to 9 feet tall.
Yeah. I mean, 8'11" is the tallest for sure person that has ever existed.
Sure.
That we have photographs of, and he was measured by doctors and stuff.
So that's in the range.
Yeah.
And if you're over 7, that's some form of gigantism.
Is it?
That's what they say.
I don't think that can be right. Lots of people are, well, I mean, not lots, but like
some people.
Like, does Tim Duncan have gigantism? I don't think he does. I think he's just a big fucker.
I mean, I guess that's true. But at what point, do you have some version of it, right? Like, because it's just about.
I guess I'm not even really worried about that. I'm just saying, like, when people talk about, we found a skeleton and they were like 8'5". Well, it's like, okay, people are sometimes that big. We have evidence of that.
I think the difference that I've seen in some of the stories that I brought today, and in some of the fascinations around it, is that gigantism is like an extremely rare disease. I mean, it affects like 3 in every million people, and it's usually not like your whole family is gigantic. It's like a random, again, like genetic abnormality that happens pretty rarely. So I think some of the stories that are interesting are not just finding like one big person, but like potentially many big people, and what that potentially points to. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm also going to say that you got to be 9 foot or above to be in the big boy club.
For that boy to be big?
Yes.
For that boy to truly be big?
Ryan, there will be plenty of opportunities.
No, I didn't want it.
If you're fishing for it already.
I wasn't fishing it.
We got to be patient.
I'm just
saying.
For
the sake of our listeners, we must be patient.
So you guys don't turn this episode off after the 300th Damn That Boy Big.
Real quickly about Robert Wadlow, who was the tallest human being to ever be a human being.
Mm-hmm.
He was 8'11" and weighed 439 pounds.
Damn.
And only lived to be 22 years old.
Right.
I learned today that he was also a Freemason.
Mm-hmm.
And he was raised to the degree of Master Mason under the jurisdiction of the Grand Lodge of Illinois AF. Extremely Illinois Freemasons.
I'm an Illinois Freemason as fuck, bro. I wear 2 skirts and 3 sashes.
Masons wear skirts?
I don't know. Some of them wear like kilts and stuff, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's only the Scottish ones, though.
That would make sense.
But also, yes. I watched a documentary where there was a bunch of Scottish ones. So
about skirts.
Kilts. They're wearing kilts and sashes and pins.
History of skirts documentary?
I would. It'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm. The tallest currently alive person?
Yes.
Do you know?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Sultan Kosin. He's 8'3".
Boom.
36 years old, lives in Turkey. You know the shortest living person?
Does he play basketball?
No.
Do you feel like if you are 36 years old and 8'3", you could just walk onto an NBA team?
No, because he can't really walk.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And that was part of what I was thinking too, when you were like, oh, when you find a big skeleton, isn't that just a thing that potentially happens? It's like, yeah, but also at the same time, I feel like gigantism as an abnormality actually often has like negative health effects, not necessarily positive ones. Whereas
definitely.
Most of the mythological stories around giants and sort of kind of like giant worship is around the fact that they are mythologically large in size, but also mythologically like strong and
sure. That's a better story though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's all.
But also, how many of the topics do we talk about are refined to just be better stories?
No, right. I'm just saying, I don't know if that is really meaningful, or if it's just like, if you see a really big person and then you tell someone else about it, you might, A, you're probably not going to know how healthy they are.
Yeah.
And B, you're probably going to talk about or assume and then talk about how strong they are.
How strong and intimidating they are.
You didn't answer my question though. You know who the shortest living person is?
I don't.
Or how short they are?
I don't.
Do you want to guess how short they are? Because guessing his name is going to be tough.
Is he Asian?
He lives in Nepal.
Okay. I think he's like 1 foot, 10 inches or something like that.
Oh, wait.
Nope.
That's a really good guess. He's 1'9".
Sick. I almost fucking nailed that.
21 inches.
I almost nailed that.
His name is Chandra Bahadur Dangi. He's 75 years old.
Really?
And they don't know why he's so short.
In the same way that I would think that there are health issues posed by gigantism, I would imagine that level of extreme dwarfism would also cause health issues that would prevent you from living to the age of 75.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I did
I don't
also
know enough
assume the
about
same
it.
thing, but then I started thinking about why, and I couldn't come up with a good reason.
Yeah.
Not a scientist.
Yeah. I mean, I guess one of the reasons I've heard a lot about with like true gigantism is that there's this scientific principle that someone's probably going to be yelling at their car speakers right now that I can't remember the name of, but it essentially has something to do with the fact that when you double something in size, you double its mass, and to double its mass, you have to essentially double the you have to quadruple the strength of the system that holds it up.
What?
If you double my height, you double my mass.
You're 12'10",
To be able
700 pounds.
To be able to support that, you have to quadruple the holding power of the mass itself. And basically what they were saying is in order to do that with the skeletal and muscular structure of a human being, the body wouldn't work to increase in size to that extent. Does that make sense?
You'd have to be real fucking strong.
Yeah, and your bones would have to
extremely
be
dense mammoth bones.
Yeah, and your bones have to be so big that you wouldn't even be able to carry your own body because your mass would be so massive to be able to support that size that you wouldn't even be able to pick your shit up.
Is that why Yao Ming kept breaking his foot?
It might be.
He was kind of a thick boy for being so big.
He was a big man. Calling Yao Ming a thick boy is a new one for us.
Am I wrong?
Here on the show.
Did you see just to give our listeners their weekly dose of NBA trivia, because that's now become part of our podcast. Did you see the thing about the $1 million bounty for the 2000 Olympic team for anyone who dunked on Yao Ming?
I did. And I find that to be truly phenomenal.
And then that Kevin Garnett thought that just a tall French dude was Yao Ming?
Yes. He celebrated a dunk that he thought was Yao Ming.
You were playing France, bro.
I like the concept of
Yao Ming is definitely Chinese.
I like the concept of harmless bounties.
$1 million for a dunk.
We should be doing more harmless bounties as a society.
We don't have money or an ability to do very many things.
Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure patreon.com/whatifpodcast.
We're just going to be wagering that on each other.
Hey, $500 for the next person who insert amazing task here that is totally harmless to all parties.
Oh, I thought you just meant between the two of us.
No.
Every month, the money goes into a pot, and then one of us has to do something, and then we get it.
No, I meant a broader bounty to our listener base of wouldn't it be cool if someone tried this or did this?
Right.
The best idea we've still ever had is to do a treasure hunt.
I know, but we can't keep talking about things that we don't do.
Well, we're busy
It's disappointing for the listeners and me.
We're busy doing cool shit.
That doesn't help.
You're to go back to the Giants thing specifically. One of the things that I found, if you search for Giants, you will find a ton of those photos where you're like, oh, it's not that weird for someone to be 8 feet tall. But a lot of the giant photos you see online, especially attached to this this topic, are all bullshit. In fact, many of them, if not most of them, can be traced back to a single Photoshop competition that this website put out in the early 2000s.
After I suggested this topic, I had an extremely hard time finding anything even remotely reputable.
Yeah.
And several times after thinking I had found something somewhat reputable. It turned out to be like a weird, veiled, white supremacist Bible thumping thing.
Oh, that's a bummer. Let's literally never do any of that on this show.
There were a lot of like stories that were clearly fabricated about finding like burial mounds, but with giants.
Yes. I have some of those in here.
And them being white and blonde and blue-eyed.
I didn't see that part of it.
And predating Native Americans and having like superior tools and stuff.
That shit got bad.
Real quick.
That's not the one.
Real quick before we leave the realm of the factual.
Yes.
For the mythological / nonsensical.
Yes.
Did you know that there was a dude who in his life was both a little person and a big person?
Is that a real thing?
At 19, so Adam Rainier at 19 years old was 3'8".
Whoa.
4'10" and under as a grown person usually qualifies you as being a little person.
Okay.
He died at age 51 when he was 7'8". So in his adult life, he was anywhere from 3'8" to 7'8". He grew 4 feet as an adult.
How is that possible?
I do not know. I don't think science really knows.
Oh man, that must be an absolute.
And by that I mean I just didn't read it.
Someone has an idea.
That information probably is out there.
Someone has an idea. It's just not our idea. I feel like that would be super, super bad for your body to grow that much at that point.
Yeah, I don't know how quickly it happened. If that was like an inch a year.
Yeah, but like most people are done growing by the age of 25. This person grew 4 feet.
Well, right. Obviously it's not normal. That's what we're talking about. But I don't know if it would necessarily be bad for you if it happened slowly enough.
Seems like it would be bad.
He also died at 51, which is probably a point in your column.
Yeah. That things didn't work out.
Point for Team Copperwood. Yeah.
Things didn't work out super great.
All right, you want to talk about weird mythological big fuckers?
I do. I do. One of the things that I wanted to say about this, part of the reason when you suggested this topic, I was like, yeah, giants to me falls into this really interesting category of there's enough about it that goes back far enough that it fascinates me to be like, where did this come from and why did it last for so long? And I think to your point about, gigantism as like a thing that has happened to humans for a really long time is available throughout the ages. So maybe people did just see an 8 foot tall person 2 and 5 and 10,000 years ago, and that was pretty wild to see.
I mean, the first time I saw a 7 foot tall person in person, it's fucking crazy. They don't seem
real. They don't seem like you.
Yeah, right? Like it doesn't quite seem like it should be possible.
Right. And then, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I got to be in the tunnel for a Wolves game once.
Yeah.
And I was in middle school or something like that. And Kevin Garnett walked by, and Kevin Garnett is like 7'1", I think. Like they used to list him at 6'11",
6'12".
and he's not 6'11".
Yeah.
I think they listed him at 7 or 7'1" later, but like, especially as a kid, like, literally 3 of me in a trench coat would still not be as tall as that dude. And that's insane. And then if you think about somebody like Wardlow, who is an additional 2 feet on top of that, I mean...
Yeah.
That seems...
full trench coat child height.
Right. That seems mythical. And then I think one of the things that's...
And also, like, if you think back far enough, like if I just told you that I saw a person that was really tall today and you were like, yeah, how tall? And I was like, 8'11".
I'd be like, fuck you.
Right.
No, you didn't. You were high. Or they were sitting down and there was...
No, they were high.
There was an illusion. You were both high.
Like, that word traveling hundreds of years ago,
yeah,
I could totally see that getting misconstrued, especially if, like, you were in an area that was foreign to you.
Right.
If you went to, because people were more isolated the farther back you go.
Right.
If you traveled to an area where everyone was significantly taller than you.
Right.
And then some of those people were way, way significantly taller than you.
For sure.
And then you went back and told your short people about it. You could probably start a legend.
You could create a story about there being exceptionally tall people.
Yeah.
I think too, you think about a story like, I think the most, maybe it's just me, but the most culturally renowned giant story is probably David and Goliath. It's like a cultural touchstone I feel like most people have.
There's a lot of Bible stories or like
about giants.
I don't know if there are a lot of them. I haven't read that thing.
I have. You can ask me.
You got it wrong last time. I don't trust you anymore.
I was close though.
Were you?
I was. I don't remember what it was about, but I think
you
I was
said something
close.
about Job and a whale.
Yeah, and it was Jonah. That's why.
Yeah.
Job, Jonah. I got the name wrong by one syllable.
That's our criteria now? It's just a syllable.
I got
Joe
Joe
what difference
right.
can one syllable really make?
I got Joe right. Come on.
Joe the whale?
Wait, versus N.
The whale wasn't Joe, right?
Yes.
Joe got eaten by the whale?
The whale's name was Joseph.
And he ate Jonah?
And he was Jesus' father.
Tight. Jesus, son of whale. What the fuck was I talking
He's
about?
a big fucker.
Oh, that was the other thing I kept finding today was a lot of people making up stories about giants to try and prove that Bible stories happened. And that they had found the Nephilim and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, and the David and Goliath one is one that's actually super reasonable and believable to me because, to your point, say somebody had gigantism as part of this army, they build this dude giant arm, an 8'11" person. If that dude like worked out and got a bunch of armor and a big ass sword, and you're 5'5" and you roll into camp, that's fucking terrifying. And that person is almost double your height, and that's a true giant.
That's terrible math, but I agree.
Whatever. They are a foot. They are a foot below that, which would be double.
Also, just to clarify, you didn't object like I thought you would when I said that you weighed 350 pounds earlier. For the listeners, Ryan does not weigh 350 pounds.
What? You were estimating me doubling?
I said.
And you said I would weigh
12, 10, 700 pounds.
No, y'all have seen my photo. I know because you think I'm Spencer.
Yes, I am 350 pounds.
No, you're not. Neither. We're
not yet.
Not yet. Give it time.
Not with that attitude.
Give it time. I'll have too much mouth soon enough. The other thing, you said it. The other thing that I wanted to say about this whole concept specifically that I find very fascinating, and actually I'm going to run through these really quick before we dive into yours, is this whole idea of not only do we have instances of people being giants in story that we think are actually very viably real, again, like the David and Goliath story. If you had someone with gigantism, that's a real story. It's not just a myth. But we also,
I mean, it might be. It's plausible.
It's a very plausible myth. Yeah. But we also have throughout history, we have all these bigger versions of shit that we have right now, right? Like Megalodon. That's a real shark that used to exist. It is an ancestor to the great white shark.
Yeah, but how big was it though?
The maximum. Did you know this? I didn't know this.
I don't know what you're gonna say, so it's hard to answer that.
The maximum size of megalodons, they could get up to 60 feet long and have a max weight of 48 metric tons.
Damn, that boy big.
Yes, accurate, correct. Oh my. Well, we just used.
That was like 6 of them.
We just used our entire quotient
quota
in that moment. I feel like we should literally censor that out so as to not offend all of
because I was
your
playing
ears.
chords with it earlier. My apologies.
Titanoboa.
Is that a big snake?
An extinct snake genus
I already hate this guy.
wherein the species could grow up to 45 feet long and weigh up to 2,500 pounds.
Damn, that boy big.
A 2,500 pound snake?
Snake, yes.
When did this feller exist?
The prehistoric, millions of years ago. I don't know exactly.
But we found like fossils or something. Mm-hmm. How do we know it wasn't just like a bunch of snakes in a line?
What's that
Snakes in a line?
Snakes on a plane? No, the one with the horror movie with the people, human centipede.
Yeah.
Snakeipede.
The snakeipede?
Snakeipede is what I was going for. Or Carbonemus is the other one, an ancestor to the giant turtle. One of them was
this I can get behind.
One of them was found in a Colombian coal mine.
He was mining coal?
He was found while miners were mining for coal. This turtle had a head the size of an NFL football and a shell that was... Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
How'd we do?
Poorly. That hurt.
That might have been... That was really close to being our very first spit take on the show. And we've had many close encounters.
It's such an odd description.
I mean, it gives you good context, though.
Does it?
Yeah, think about that.
It's not that big. I got a pretty big head. My head's probably about the size of a football.
Your head's bigger than a football.
Yeah, see? This turtle ain't shit.
The turtle's shell was 5'7" wide.
I'm like 5'7".
Yeah, you're not a turtle, motherfucker.
I'm just saying.
You're not impressive.
This is like in the realm of the size that animals should be. You went from 2,500 pounds and 90 feet long or whatever Titanoboa was to a man-sized turtle.
Titanoboa is a sick band name. Put it on the list.
Oh, we got a voicemail that just says, I have the list. Call me.
Call me to get the list? Yeah. Do we know who it was?
No. I guess we got to call him.
All right. That'll be the last thing we do on the show. We'll call and say, give us the list. No, but it would have made it the biggest turtle to exist. It was
I'm not even going to hit the button. I'm not impressed by this guy.
You don't need to. You don't need to be impressed. You just need to know that conceptually throughout history, we've all had, like many species have had a bigger version of themselves that predated them.
Isn't the blue whale the largest animal to ever animal?
In total size, yes.
What do you mean?
Yeah, as in like it is the biggest. Well, is that? I don't know if that's true if we take into consideration dinosaurs, is it?
I think so.
Blue whale's even bigger than like Brontosauri?
Ryan, Google is a blue whale bigger than a dinosaur and see what the old internet has to say about it. I'm pretty sure that's a real fact. Couldn't tell you how or why I know that, but
ever known to exist, bigger than dinosaurs, bigger than mastodons. A blue whale can reach up to almost 100 feet long and have been weighed in as much as 191 tons.
Damn, that boy big.
That's
191 tons? What's that, 2,000 pounds?
In one animal.
So that's like almost 400,000 pounds?
I think that's right.
Jeez.
And 100 feet long. 10-story building.
Well, this episode is just about whales now.
On its side.
I apologize.
We did an oceans episode and we didn't spend nearly enough time on big fucking blue whales. No, but I guess the points that I'm trying to make in talking about big fucking animals.
We've been shrinking.
Maybe. Or maybe there's some version of us that existed a long, long time ago that's just bigger than we are.
Homo giganticus.
Well, gigantic.
Homo big as fuckicus.
What's the gigantopithecus?
Homo damn that boy bigicus.
Gigantopithecus. We talked about that one on the
that's a Bigfoot.
On the Bigfoot episode.
Yeah.
But this was another one, an extinct ape genus where they walked bipedal and they were super tall apes.
Do you think Goliath was just a squatch?
I mean, How
fuzzy was he?
I'll be honest with you. It crossed my mind that like
Squatch Army?
Not Squatch Army, but that somebody could find a femur from a Gigantopithecus.
Oh yeah.
And go, oh, this is a big fucking femur. It seems like it belongs to a mammal that is bipedal. Mm-hmm. We must have had a giant predecessor, and maybe it's just that
big fucking femur, mate.
We had a big fucking ape. And
big fucking femurs.
Yeah. 3 O's.
All right, can we tell some made-up stories now?
Please do. I want to hear your myths.
Oh, I'm going first.
Well, you don't have to.
Okay, that's all right.
Do you believe? Okay, actually, I will go first. Do you believe
Great.
none of the stories of like people uncovered things in places? Should we run through a couple of them and you can say why you think they're bullshit?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
So a lot of this comes. Well, not a lot of this. There's a guy named Hugh Newman. Did you find Hugh Newman at all?
What did he do?
So Hugh Newman is a little bit like the Dave Paulides of giants instead of disappearing things, but not in a bad way. Dave is just like, Hugh. This is Hugh's like expertise. But he may or may not
His
be
expertise is what? Big people?
tracking stories of giants throughout history.
Okay.
He's less insinuating that interstellar Bigfoot is the cause of giants.
Interdimensional. Come on, Ryan. Keep up.
You're right.
What's it? Hugh what now?
Hugh Newman, Hugh Newman. He's written books on the subject, including one of which is Giants on Record, America's Hidden History, Secrets in the Mounds, and the Smithsonian Files.
Oh, yeah. This is the fucker who thinks they're the Aryan giants.
Are we sure there's an Aryan angle to this? Because I didn't find that in any of my stuff.
All right, go ahead.
What about the goddamn giant scondos? We can start there. This isn't a Hugh Newman one.
No, go ahead with Hugh. That's fine.
Hugh has talked about all of these, so I'm not gonna necessarily like tie anything too specifically to him. But Hugh talks about a lot of these cases in his book, and a few of them specifically. So one case is the giant damn scondos, which is that let's see, when was the first one found? It was 1897. There was an article that came out in the New York Times. It was published on December 20th. And the title of the article is Wisconsin Mound Opened. Skeleton of a man over 9 feet high with an enormous skull. Maple Creek, Wisconsin, December 19th. One of 3 recently discovered mounds in this town has been opened. In it was found the skeleton of a man of gigantic size. The bones measured from head to foot over 9 feet and were in a fair state of preservation. The skull was as large as a half bushel measure.
Pardon?
I don't know. I think that's a
bushel of what, though?
A bushel of
apples?
A bushel of sheep. Some finely tempered rods of copper and other relics were lying near the bones. The mound from which these relics were taken is 10 feet high and 30 feet long and varies from 6 to 8 feet in width. The 2 mounds of lesser size will be excavated soon. So this was in Maple Creek, Wisconsin in 1897. And this was reported enough times through Wisconsin that it made it into the New York Times that week.
So why are all of these from like the 1800s and sourced generally to one article?
Well,
that's a big part of what makes me very skeptical of these.
It's because the Smithsonian collected all of the bones and hid them away because there's a conspiracy. Yeah, that's where it falls apart for me too.
Like,
there's a lot of people who believe that though, that this sort of, whether it be Nephilim or human predecessors or somehow related to aliens or something like that, that people think that this is one of those, like, the government knows too much about our giant human predecessor, and so the Smithsonian and other science bodies have taken and hidden the evidence from these articles.
And why would they do that?
That's one that I can't get around to. There's another one from the Madison area that also made it to the New York Times about 15 years after the last one I just read. Strange skeletons found, indications that tribe hitherto unknown once lived in Wisconsin. Madison, Wisconsin, May 2nd, 1912. The discovery of several skeletons of human beings while excavating a mound at Lake Delavan indicates that a heretofore unknown race of men once inhabited southern Wisconsin. Information of the discovery was brought to Madison today by Maurice Morrissey of Delavan, who came here to attend a meeting of the Republican State Central Committee. And then it goes on to talk about this large mound, similar to the other one. The heads, presumably those of men, are much larger than the heads of any race which inhabit America today. From directly over the eye sockets, the heads slope straight back, and the nasal bones protrude far above the cheekbones. The jaw bones are long and pointed, bearing a minute resemblance to the head of a monkey. The teeth in the front of the jaw are regular molars. So, not claiming a size, not claiming much more than that, but a somewhat similar, a mound that was found, opened up, found some big people in it.
Okay.
Also made it to the New York Times. Similar area in Wisconsin.
What year was this?
This one was 1912. The other one was 1897.
So, I guess I'm just very confused about how this would work. Say you found something like that.
Yes.
It wouldn't be studied by anyone. It would only be reported in one place. And then sometime, either before or immediately after being reported in one place, it was confiscated by the Smithsonian and then hidden forever. And then this happened over and over again?
As far as I'm aware...
But not anytime recently?
As far as I'm aware, only two of them specifically made it into the Times. Those are the only two that I came across that made it into the Times, was the Wisconsin ones. I don't have good answers to your questions about why we're not finding more of these.
Like, wouldn't there have to be actual evidence at some point if this were happening, rather than just text?
Well, and there are some photos that exist in the world that are not attributable back to that specific fucking Photoshop contest. But you have to take all those photos with a grain of salt because there are so many photos from Photoshop contests.
Right.
So yes, I mean, I think the real question that you're getting at that is a very salient one is if there are multiple mounds in the United States that have people in the 9-foot range skeletons being found inside of them, why don't we know more about it today? Why didn't that turn into a study in further excavation and archaeological digs and analysis
or why haven't any been found like in the last 100 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that they haven't. We just don't know. I mean, another one is the Lovelock Cave in 1911. That one
is that the Nevada one?
Yeah,
with all the bat shit.
Yep. There's miners in Nevada who they're actually mining guano for I guess it has a thing for gunpowder, like a chemical in it that can be used in gunpowder. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't
what
exactly
that is.
know, but apparently in 1911 you could sell bat shit to people
so they can blow stuff up.
I guess.
Man, wouldn't that be the coolest grift ever?
Selling bat shit?
Just bringing a wagon of bat shit into town and being like, hey, we want to blow stuff up here, take a can of this home. Okay, see ya. And then you just leave town.
No, because that means you had to harvest bat shit out of a cave.
It's free, man.
That sounds like a terrible time.
Making money.
I guess.
Making money.
I don't know if grift is the right word. Shitty job.
Shitty job. But in the process of their guano mining, there's a story of a couple of miners, David Pugh and James Hart, who were said to have spent time excavating and finding giants in the cave, skeletons of massive proportions. I'm trying to find the dimensions here, and it's not coming up.
I couldn't find any source for this one. Could you?
The Lovelock Caves one?
Yeah.
No.
So
the only thing I found for that is that there is an oral history of a native group in the area that includes a legendary tribe of giants.
Could you find a record of that though? Or is it just like dummies with blogs saying there is?
No, there's a woman named Adrienne Mayer who wrote a book about that tribe called Fossil Legends of the First Americans, and she retells from interviews with the Paiute tribe about their oral history. That's all I found though.
So this is based on her retelling of
an oral history of a native people, yes.
Okay.
So,
but not specifically of these people finding stuff in that cave at that time, just that they have some stories of big people who lived in a cave?
In that area, though.
Okay.
In like overlapping area.
Right. But not the specific details that are then retold in the common retelling of that story in terms of finding like thousands of artifacts and bones and stuff.
Yeah, no, she doesn't say all that stuff. Okay. They call them the red-haired giants because the skeletons that were found were supposedly had reddish hair, which apparently is actually just a hair pigment that the native tribes used on their own people. And actually, what she thinks is that that the native people did in fact bury some of their ancestors in that cave, and that the size of the people that were found grew and grew as the story grew and grew, and it was done as like a tourist thing to get people to come and check it out, draw attention to the cave, the stuff they were mining, etc.
I also read that the hair discoloration can happen naturally after death, depending on where a body is located.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Some of the pigment from dark hair can fade and make it look reddish.
Sure. Well, and two, I mean, you think about the Southwest of the United States, you've got red clay everywhere and dust and however many years, your hair might turn red.
All right.
Do you put any credence in any of these?
Last thing about that Lovelock Cave.
Yeah.
thing,
Oh, sorry.
From SasquatchResearchers.org /blogs.
Oh boy.
They have a version of that story in which the giants are just Bigfoots.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Which is like no less believable than any other version.
I was just going to say, which is maybe equally likely.
I honestly thought getting into this, I could find some like interesting or at least curious stories.
Sure.
And I had a really hard time finding anything that wasn't just like obviously total bullshit.
Yeah. Did you find the Alaskan one? It's like the best written one, and it's
I didn't come across any from Alaska.
I think it's totally bullshit. It's
what? Did you come across this one? It's also total nonsense.
Yeah, no, it's really well written, and I think the reason I'm pointing at it is because I think that a lot of these are really well written, and they're better written than many of the versions of like made up shit that I think we see.
Hit me with the Alaska one. I'm not familiar.
I'm actually going to read directly from. Hang on, it's a article. They talk about. Hang on. Kill time.
Okay.
Kill time.
The most, like, I don't know, the closest to convincing one I found is called the Giant of Castelnau, Castelnau.
Agreed. I saw this one too.
Which is a French alleged giant. Also from the late 1800s. This was 1890.
Okay.
There were 3 bone fragments that were found by a gentleman named George Vacher. I don't know, Vacher.
Yep.
De la Pugue. And he found these 3 bones underneath some sediment and dated them allegedly to the Neolithic era. And he claims that the bones, if they were all from the same person, and he thought that they were because they were all appeared to be like to scale, he estimated from the size of these bones that person would have been about 11 and a half feet tall. And he reported his finding in the journal La Nature And he describes them as such. I think, quote, I think it unnecessary to note that these bones are undeniably human despite their enormous size. The first is the middle part of the shaft of a femur, 14 centimeters in length, almost cylindrical in shape, and the circumference of the bone is 16 centimeters. The second piece is the middle and upper part of the tibia, with a circumference of 13 centimeters and a length of 26 centimeters. The third was regarded by good anatomists as the lower part of a humerus. The volumes of the bones were more than double the normal pieces to which they correspond. Judging by the unusual intervals of anatomical points, they also involve lengths almost double. The subject would have been a likely size of 3.5 meters.
Which is like
10.5 to 11 feet, something like that.
Yeah.
But even that one, there's one photo.
Right.
These were not reported anywhere else. His findings were not reviewed by anyone else. And no one knows where those bones ended up.
Right. And to go to the earlier...
And it's from 130 years ago, 140 years ago.
Right. And to go back to the earlier comment, like, it wouldn't be impossible to find bones that are similar to a human.
Right.
Draw some conclusions, and that could be a giant ape. That could be a person with gigantism. That could be...
Yeah, did you come across the one of the giant Cyclops guy?
I did, but isn't that just a Photoshop story?
I don't know. Maybe it's a different giant Cyclops story, but there's one where they think someone likely rearranged or like an ancient culture took mammoth bones and rearranged them like sort of in the loose shape and appearance of a human. Someone uncovered him later and was like,
"Damn, that boy big."
Thinking that it was a Cyclops person, but it was just like parts of a mammoth.
I love that. I mean, what kind of creativity would that be?
What?
Are they going like, haha, we're going to trick these people and
who knows what they're doing?
Tens of thousands of years.
You get bored thousands of years ago. What else are you going to do?
It's
Got
true.
some bones laying around. Got time to kill.
I found this Alaska story.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worth reading, and then we can get into some myths. Do you have some myths on top of this?
I don't fucking know.
Okay. Ivan T. This comes from an article in Nexus magazine written by a guy named David Hatcher Childress.
Oh yeah.
Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who is he?
He's an Ancient Aliens frequent contributor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. It references two articles, one from the Washington Post in 1936 and another from the Washington Post from 1944, neither of which I could actually find
weird.
the scanned version of, but also I don't think that's entirely rare for WAPO articles from the 30s.
This goofball from Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, his face looks familiar.
His voice would be familiar.
So
anyway, just picture this guy reading this while you read it.
Oh boy.
This might help you.
Oh boy.
Figure out just how seriously to take this.
He's wearing real wide suspenders, and I like that about him.
I think it's a backpack, but you can...
Got it. It's a small photo. Oh,
Here,
yeah, it is.
There you go.
Stash in a mullet game, just like so strong. Okay, this is what he wrote in this Nexus magazine article. Ivan T. Sanderson, a well-known zoologist and frequent guest on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show in the 1960s, usually with an exotic animal with a pangolin or a lemur. Is a pangolin a real thing?
Yeah.
What the fuck is a pangolin?
I don't know that much, but I think it's a real thing.
Put a penguin inside a mandolin.
I don't think that's it.
Once related a curious story about a letter he received regarding an engineer who was stationed on the Aleutian island of Shemya during World War II.
Where that is, though.
Do you know where the Aleutian Islands are?
No.
That's the chain of islands. It's a archipelago.
Sick.
On the bottom side of Alaska. So like the Alaskan chain of islands.
Been there. Didn't know what it was called, apparently.
Sick.
Real smart over here, guys.
While building an airstrip, his crew... So Ivan got a letter from a guy who was on an island. So again, it's like...
An island guy.
And David's writing this story.
Yeah, great.
So we're 4 steps removed already.
David's totally not full of shit.
Yeah. While building an airstrip, his crew bulldozed a group of hills and discovered under several sedimentary layers what appeared to be human remains. The Alaskan mound was in fact a graveyard of gigantic human remains consisting of crania and long leg bones. The crania measured from 22 to 24 inches from base to crown. Since an adult skull normally measures about 8 inches from back to front, such a large crania would imply an immense size for a normally proportioned human. Furthermore, every skull was said to have been neatly trepanned, a process of cutting a hole in the upper portion of the skull. In fact, the habit of flattening the skull of an infant and forcing it to grow in an elongated shape was a practice used by ancient Peruvians, the Mayas, and the Flathead Indians of Montana. Sanderson tried to gather further proof, eventually receiving a letter from another member of the unit who confirmed the report. The letters both indicated that the Smithsonian Institution had collected the remains, yet nothing else was heard. Sanderson seemed convinced that the Smithsonian had received the bizarre relics, but wondered why they would not release the data. He asks, is it that these people cannot face rewriting all the textbooks? So it's like, it's really well written, but it's obviously bullshit because there's just so much.
That conspiracy is just total nonsense to me.
There's not a good why that I can possibly
Except
find.
that the Smithsonian has possession of literally millions of artifacts, and they don't necessarily break news with every single thing that they have. You know, like, there are literally millions of things that the Smithsonian is in possession of that we don't know about. Doesn't mean there's a conspiracy. What are they supposed to do with all of them?
Well, I think the idea is coming back around to your point, the whole concept of if these things exist and would indicate that we have a gigantic humanoid predecessor in North America, that would become a study of like a topic of study with further archaeological digs and research and all kinds of stuff. But the fact that it just didn't become anything and we can barely find even a dose of information about it is the believers defending that, well, it's a cover-up and they're trying to get that stuff to go away instead of what it probably is, which is a bunch of people lying on the internet and then saying, well, there's just not any more information because they took it all.
Yeah, or if there even was an object, it's not what you thought it was because you're not an expert guy who thinks aliens used to fuse rocks together with lasers.
Right. And there's also the element of it that you brought up, which is this whole, like, we have different races of people who are naturally different heights, and depending on where you are in the arc of history and what race or, culture you come from, finding a body or fighting a person with gigantism could truly make you believe and tell stories like that, even if in the broader scheme of science, it's not actually the the great far out fucking wild thing that you think it is.
Because a lot of these are like, well, we're piecing together bits of information or bone fragments or estimating that he would have been well over 7 feet tall. It's like, well, okay.
Right.
Like Manute Bol is buried somewhere. He's well over 7 feet tall.
Right.
Pretty sure he was just a man.
What happens then?
Yeah.
Right.
Like in the future and in the past and now, people have been buried that are over 7 feet tall.
Yes.
Like, that is not, it's uncommon, but it's not like paranormal or evidence of another species.
No, I think though when people find this stuff, a lot of what they call back to is a lot of the like the giant mythology.
Right.
I think what people like to believe is that the mythological Greek species of giants that weren't just one-off Manute Bols, they were armies of Manute Bols are being found and discovered. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure how effective a Manute Bol army would have actually been.
Well,
You get like a strong wind and you're fucked.
That's true. Tipping directly over.
The mythology is really understandable to me of like, I think every person has probably thought at some point, what would it be like if I was bigger?
Yeah.
Especially, if you're in nature more than we are now, going back into the past, and you're seeing animals that are significantly larger and more powerful than you all the time.
You're also being exposed
And
to
you're aware of your own vitality in a different sense because you rely on it more than we do now, in terms of like being bigger and stronger is directly correlated to you surviving longer.
right.
It's not hard for me to believe that that would have been on people's minds.
Yes.
And continues to be.
I mean-
How many 5'10" guys put 6 foot on their driver's license still?
Real.
You know, like that is still a part of our collective consciousness now.
Yeah. I think too, in some ways, there is giant mythology in almost every religion or culture. And I think, it's almost like in the same way that so many different cultures have a slightly different but similar version of like God, that they arrived to independently of each other. I find it to be super similar to that. There's this thing that's awe-inspiring and large and similar to us, made in our image, but different. We're connected to it, but it's greater and grander. That I think that whole kind of logic train applies to the invention of and the worship of, in some ways, these giant peoples.
I'm not sure why we take this one like more literally than some other myths.
Yeah, I mean, I do think in a lot of ways there is I think much of the damage around this one, if you will, was done off of that one Photoshop contest that I brought up at the very beginning of this. There's a website in a company called Worth 1000, which was a place that would literally do a picture's worth 1,000 words Photoshop contests in the early 2000s. And they put a prompt out that was like, can you design an image of an archaeological dig that looked so real you would have to do a double take to believe that it wasn't, or something like that?
Yeah.
And so they got hundreds and hundreds of submissions from some of the best early 2000s graphic designers in the world taking archaeological digs. In fact, the version of it that I heard, I don't know if this is the same or different than your mammoth one, is that one of the people actually took bones from a mammoth dig and arranged them in a human maybe that's shape, what it was, and then added a human skull into the image. It's an aerial camera view, and it looks like there's these scientists actually working on a giant bone body, and they're really good. A lot of them are really, really good, but all you have to do is you have to take the mythology that exists from all of our historical cultures. You take the knowledge that there are animals that have existed historically, then you tack onto that the fact that gigantism is a real thing,
right? And
then you put some of the best Photoshop in the internet from the 20,000s on top of it.
20,000s.
2000s.
Way in the future.
Thank you. Way in the future. In the 2000s, on top of it, you have a 4-pillared recipe for successfully duping the vast majority of the internet with we can write an infinite number of blog posts about this being a real thing, and people will be like, fuck yeah, it is.
I had an assignment in my college photo class in the early 2000s that was very similar to that.
Oh, really?
We had to, it was back in the day when if you were a photography student, you had to take just like a Photoshop class because it was still new.
Right.
And one of our assignments was to make a composite image of at least 4 people.
Ooh, that sounds...
And put it on hotornot.com for a week and get more than a 6 out of 10.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I passed.
Honestly?
Me and my 3 roommates passed that shit.
Honestly?
We were a good looking bunch of dudes.
You went dudes.
I went the 3 guys and myself in my house
because
I waited until the last minute to do it. No.
Oh, okay.
I just chose the 4 people closest to me when I realized this assignment was due.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, bro, come here.
We were like a solid 7.2 together.
Come here, I gotta take your picture. For what? I'm gonna
hotornot.com.
I'm gonna
/school.
I'm gonna cram your face into my face and then put it on a website where people rate it. No. Absolutely not.
All right, bro.
Yeah, man.
It is time.
ET's time. Hey, if you want to give it a shot, whatifpodcast.com/shoutouts. Shout out, sorry, singular. I'll make shout outs and shout outs. Go to it.
Or if you just want to like, I mean, I'll read almost anything. If you just want to like say mean things
about
us and make us read them, you could specify also in this shout out who you want to have read it.
That's true. If you want Spencer or Ryan to read it, just to put it in the special instructions, and
right.
we'll.
Is there a character limit on that shit?
I mean, keep it reasonable, guys. 100 words, 200 words tops. We'll do that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
All right.
It'll be a couple minutes.
If you just want to like make us say nice things about ourselves too, we'll take that.
Hey, you guys are
great.
You guys are nicer people than making us say
than
mean
we
stuff.
are usually.
Yeah, than making us say mean things about ourselves. If you want to send us an email about advertising or anything else, send us a show suggestion. It's hi@whatifpodcast.com. The number to call if you want to leave a voicemail is 612-246-4614. Let's see if someone has the list on the Patreon this week.
Bet.
Patreon.com/whatifpodcast if you want an extra episode every single week for just $5 a month. We love y'all. As always, we will see you next week.